Damien Delaney is with us. Damien, good morning to you. How you doing?
Morning, how are you?
I wanted to ask a little bit about what you think Jack Byrne is going to feel tonight when he does step up, because there's been a lot of suggestion that the League of Ireland to international football is too big a leap for anybody to make. You've understand exactly what this leap is like. You've played in the League of Ireland recently enough. So how far away is Jack Byrne from being able to play international football properly?
I think the only thing he needs is to be testing himself against better opposition more often, which he probably doesn't get in the League of Ireland. Rovers and Dundalk are the two strongest teams, and they have the vast majority of the ball. So tonight's just a great opportunity for him just to go take the game by the scruff of the neck and go and enjoy himself, especially after the high of the cup final. So I'm hoping he puts in a really, really good performance.
What was your experience of the league when you were playing in it? Like, what was the standard like?
Look, the standard League of Ireland is pretty good, but the difference between what you get in the League of Ireland and what you get across the water in the Championship or even in League One now is you get a better standard week in, week out. You're testing yourself every week. You have to be in top gear to get results. And I think Shamrock Rovers, unfortunately, in the League of Ireland, there's 4 or 5 teams where they can show up in second gear and win games, and sometimes that could be a little bit easy for Jack. So his consistency is probably the only thing, and he'll only get that by testing himself against better opposition more often. It's
one of those situations maybe where the style of play that he has will work in certain leagues and for certain teams. I don't want to make the obvious Wes comparison, but it's made today in the papers. Wes was able to step up from League of Ireland to go and play in Scotland, to go and play in England, and to play international football and have time on the ball, because that's what he created wherever he was. It's almost as if the level doesn't matter too much in some ways, and actually the higher the level, the better it's going to be, because you're going to play with better players. Is there an element of that with Jack Byrne, that he will actually get better the better players he plays with?
I don't subscribe to that, if I'm being honest with you. I think that Jack Byrne's a very, very good player. He needs to play in the right system. He needs to play, he's admitted himself that he made mistakes going to Oldham and going up to Scotland and playing in difficult systems and being promised certain things by certain managers, and they didn't come through. Jack has got to improve an awful lot in his game. I think one of the big aspects that he probably has to improve the most on is his defensive side of the game. Because whatever way you look at it now, the days of I won't say carrying a player, because you don't carry Jack, but when you don't have the ball, all 11 players have to be contributing to the game. And I think that is certainly an element of Jack's game that needs to be improved when they don't have the ball. And I'm not saying for a second here that he needs to be like a tough tackling midfield player or a dominant number 6 or anything, but he needs to contribute either to his positional play, in closing people down and forcing people into certain areas. So there's things he can add to his game. And I think when you go to the UK, if he does want to go back to the UK, and that's a big ish, that's an aspect that he's going to have to improve, because when his team doesn't have the ball, he can't just kind of wait for his team to win it back and then give it to him again. He has, and I think that's reading between the lines, probably an issue is why he hasn't played more often for Mick. Because Mick's that type of manager that he kind of prioritises not having the ball over actually having the ball. So, but tonight's kind of a free shot for him, hence the reason he's starting. So I hope he showcases his skills, and I hope he shows everyone what he's capable of.
It is definitely one of the things that we talked to Gary Breen about, the differences between the O'Neill era and the McCarthy era. He was saying that, or maybe it was Kenny actually was making the point, that when we're out of possession of the ball, you can see that there's a specific plan in place at the minute to try and get it back, that we're harrying and hassling as a team, which has worked on that. Now, I did want to bring up the last game where we went 3 at the back, and apparently we didn't practice in training because we were concerned that perhaps we were being spied upon by our opponents. Does that make any sense?
I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think so. The last time when we went 3 at the back, my only query with that, with Mick, is we had 2 prototype Premier League wing-backs in Enda Stevens and Matt Doherty, and neither of them, Matt Doherty played left side of the 3, and Doherty didn't play at all. So I thought it was a perfect example that if you were going to go 3 at the back, you could have played Kevin Long in there, in the back 3 on the left-hand side, and then played Enda in his wing-back position and Matt in his wing-back position. So That would kind of be my only question there with regards to why he went the way that he went. It's very strange not to practice a three at the back when you change a system that drastically. I don't know if that's true or not. They definitely spoke about it, but it's very unlike Mick to go and do something like that anyway.
All of the information that we've had coming out of the camp was, and it hasn't been confirmed, so it's still in the realms of speculation, but it's informed speculation, is that the team didn't practice the three at the back all week in training, which is exactly what Martin O'Neill was getting hammered for, that they weren't training for game situations. And Mick seems to have got away with that, despite the fact that here we are, we now have to beat Denmark on Monday to qualify, when actually really all we had to do was beat Georgia and we were going to go through.
It's very unlike Mick McCarthy to do that. And if that information that you're getting through there is accurate or even semi-accurate, I would be very, very surprised. And especially with the magnitude of the game that he did it in as well, because it was such a big, big game. So to throw kind of an unknown of the players as late as what he did is very surprising for me. I'm sure he had his reasons, and if you sat down and spoke to him, he probably had valid reasons for that. But it's very out of character for him, and perhaps we could just give him that one pass, really. Enda
Stevens told us that they didn't practice it. He did the mix zone with Richie afterwards, and he was obviously quite disappointed, but he was like, no, we didn't. Actually, when you consider that the centre-back, the constellation of centre-backs that we have at the minute, all of them, especially for this game, would all be comfortable with it. But apparently we've thrown that experiment out now because it didn't work in the half hour, 40 minutes that we've tried it. So that deal is done, that ship has sailed. Never again will you see that from Ireland.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what Mick's thinking was behind that, but it was very unlike him. Maybe somebody convinced him to do it, or someone talked him around, one of his coaching staff. I couldn't even speculate on that. It's very unlike him, and I don't think we'll be seeing it again. But as I said, my only issue with it was, with the amount of centre-backs that we have, he could have picked three and played the two wing-backs who were playing in the Premier League. That would be my only question mark as to the bit I didn't understand about it, really.
Yeah, I don't think anybody understood it.
I'm just wondering, is he the kind of manager, if you didn't understand something, or you're wondering, like we were just discussing there, is he the kind of manager that you can approach and say, I'm not sure this is the best idea, can we give it a whirl? Or is, once he decides something's happening, that's it?
Well, you wouldn't go to Mick and say, can we practice something? Because then you'd be almost telling him what to do in his training sessions, or telling him how to put his training sessions together. And I don't think Mick would be...
So you can't say to him.
Yeah, wouldn't accept being told what to do. But look, I'm sure he had his reasons. It's definitely a character for him, whereas under Martin, it was every camp that he did it. Perhaps he had valid reasons, I'm sure he did. He's not the type of manager that makes wild changes regularly. He's not that type of guy. He's a very structured, very measured man, and he thinks about everything that he does. So he had his reasons. I couldn't even begin to speculate what they were or why he did it. Perhaps afterwards he was annoyed with himself that he did go ahead and do it. But I don't think we'll be seeing it again. But to answer your question, no, Mick's probably not the person who probably could go and say that, to be honest with you.
It's a bit of a pity we won't see it again, because as you pointed out, we do have the two prototype wing-backs, but we also have centre-backs who are playing really well in the Premier League at the minute. Like, we could have three at the back centre-backs with Duffy and Clark and Egan, and it would be a completely different team. It would be a different style of play to what we've been using, but like, it would have been presented to us by some of the most progressive minds in the Premier League, and we would suddenly have another way of playing that maybe tonight was the chance to try that out.
No, but see, the thing is, Mick's never going to risk any of his starters for Denmark tonight. You know, tonight is probably a game that Mick could have done without. He probably would rather not have it and then just keep everyone wrapped up. But he's playing all the guys who haven't been involved. There's a chance for Robbie Brady to stake a claim now and possibly force his way back into the starting 11 for the Denmark game. But as you said there, I agree with you. I think Shane Duffy's been playing that system at his club. John Egan plays it at his club. You could have, Kieran Clark would be prototype left side of three, really, more than capable of playing there. But then again, he's only come to the fore in the last couple of weeks at his club anyway. So before that, he was out of the picture. But I do think at the time, you would have had Kevin Long, who could have played that role. And then, your two wing-backs. So there's only one person that's not used to playing that role, whereas it was just a bit of a mixed match of players that were thrown together. And to do that in the magnitude of the game that he did is very, very surprising.
Yeah, it's baffling, really. In terms of the game against Denmark, is there anything apart from like a good performance from Robbie Brady tonight? If Troy Parrott scores 2 or 3 times, does that mean that he suddenly becomes a live option off the bench? Or like, is there anything that we can learn from tonight, really, beyond Brady?
No, I think probably the person that will be watching tonight most closely will be Stephen Kenny if he goes ahead and gets the job, because he'll be looking to see how all these guys do. A lot of them are making their debuts. A lot of them will be first time playing at the Aviva in a full international game. So he'll be looking forward to seeing that. I think Mick, the only thing Troy Parrott can do tonight is probably, if he does really, really well, is if we're losing the game against Denmark later on, he might get himself thrown in the mix as a last throw of the dice with Jack Byrne. So if we're losing 1-0 with 10 minutes to go, you could probably see Jack Byrne and Troy Parrott on the pitch. If Troy Parrott handles the situation tonight and then has a reasonably good game. But in terms of other players, I think Robbie Brady's the only one really that could force his way in. But even then, as I said to you, and I know the Switzerland game is out of character, Mick will have his team for Denmark sorted already, and he'll know exactly what he's going to do, and he'll have his plan in place.
So Brady has to have like the greatest game of all time, ping one in from a free kick, create another one,
so.
like look like a...
I'd say so, because like I said, with the size of the game that's coming up and the pressure is going to be on it, Robbie Brady's used to playing those types of games because he played at the Euros and he plays in big games for his clubs. So whereas you look at the other lads, you know, not a lot of them have played in as big a game as what the Denmark is going to be. So if Robbie Brady has a stormer tonight, there's every chance you could see him in starting 11 on Monday against Denmark.
Because there is only really one spot up for grabs in the starting 11. It looks like it's kind of that right side of the midfield area. Everywhere else has kind of melded into...
Yeah. I think Mick's very rigid, very set in his ways. And as I said to you, I think Mick would be secretly hoping for Robbie to have a good game, because I have a feeling that he'd love to have Robbie in the team. I really do. I think he'd love to put him in because he's probably struggling for options there in the midfield, and he'd love to have a decision to make. Let's put it that way. Whereas at the minute, if Robbie doesn't do well tonight, then I think the team almost picks itself.
Are we in danger of getting hammered again by Denmark on Monday night?
No, I don't think we'll get hammered. I don't think we do. I mean, you look back to the Denmark game, and not to rerun over that, but a lot of what was talking about was when he went to the Diamond, out of nowhere, Martin O'Neill. And the one thing you don't want to do against Christian Eriksen is go to a Diamond. I couldn't believe it when he did it at the time, because the one thing Christian Eriksen wants is space in between the midfield and the back four. And I remember when we used to play against Spurs, that was the only thing that we used to say. So we used to play 2 number 6s to clog up that area. So Christian Eriksen couldn't get on the ball in between the 2 centre-backs and the 2 centre midfielders. He had to go wide to get on the ball. And once he went wide to get on the ball, well, he couldn't hurt you directly from there. If you asked Christian Eriksen today, what's the one system he'd want to play against, it would be the Diamond. Because the players on the either side of your Diamond, on the left and the right, are going to have to go out and help fullbacks. So once they go out and help the fullbacks and the ball gets played back inside, you have 1 number 6. And then you've got huge, vast swaths of space there that Christian Eriksen can exploit. Hence the reason he absolutely took control of the game. So, I mean, that decision for me, I could never understand that. It's the one thing you wouldn't do against Christian Eriksen, and he took advantage of it. So I think, to go back to your point, Mick will never do that, because he would never, ever open up those spaces for... So I think we pretty much have 2 6s to clog up those spaces for Christian Eriksen, keep the game at 0-0 or 1-0 either way, and stay in the game and be in with a shout with the last little bit. But you know, the only way this ends up 4 or 5 is if there's 5 minutes left and we're 1-0 down, and Jack throws on a load of attack, or Mick throws on loads of attackers, Jack Byrne and Troy Parrott, and they tack on a couple on the break in injury time. I think that's the only way.
Yeah. Okay. The 2 number 6s who are going to end up having to deal with Eriksen on Monday night, obviously we know Glenn Whelan's going to be one of those. Who else has that responsibility then?
I'd probably say it would be Conor Hourihan, I'd have thought.
Right, so he just plays very withdrawn then and barely moves forward.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be as attacking as what people are probably expecting for us to go and win the game. Because if you go attacking, you're going to open up those spaces for Eriksen, and he's going to cause absolute carnage, as he did in the last game that we played against. So I think Mick's going to keep it nice and tight. nice and cagey, frustrate the Danes, kind of hopefully that if you're nice and solid, that they'll start getting frustrated because they'll expect to be maybe 1 or 2 nil up early. I know Kasper Schmeichel in the past has complained about playing against Irish teams.
Yeah.
So he's going to want to keep it tight, keep it cagey, stay in the game as long as possible, and do what he does, and that's a set piece or a penalty or a positive referee decision, something like that, and try to nick the game as opposed to actually going and dominating it, you know?
Yeah, sounds great.
Well, it is what it is, and I think anyone's expecting champagne football and us to have 6% of the ball against Denmark. It's not going to happen. It's going to be exactly what we've had over the last number of games in qualifiers, you know?
Damien, good stuff. Great to have you with us this morning. Thanks a million, man.
That's